Everyone, and welcome to Chapter 7 of Stargirl. A.H. Archibald Hapwood, Brubaker, lived in a house of bones. Jawbones, hip bones, femurs. They were bones in every room, every closet, on the back porch. Some people have stone cats on their roofs. On his roof, Archie Brubaker had a skeleton of Monroe, his deceased Siamese. Take a seat in his bathroom, and you found yourself facing the faintly smirking skulls of Doris, a prehistoric Cretan. Open the kitchen cabinet with the peanut butter, where the peanut butter was kept, and you were face to fossil face with an extinct fox. Archie was not morbid. He was a paleontologist. The bones were from digs he had done throughout the American West. Many were rightly his, found in his spare time. Others he collected for museums, but slipped in his own pocket or knapsack instead. Better sit in my refrigerator than disappear in a drawer in some museum basement, he would say. When he wasn't digging up old bones, Archie Brubaker was teaching at universities in the East. He retired at the age of 65. When he was 66, his wife, Ada Mae, died. At 67, he moved himself and his bones west to join the other fossils. He chose his home for two reasons. One, its proximity to the high school. He wanted to be near kids. He had none of his own. And two, Senor Seguro. Senor Seguro was a cactus, a 30-foot tall giant that towered over the tool shed in the backyard. It had two arms high on the trunk. One struck straight out, the other made a right turn upwards as if waving adios. The waving arm was green from elbow up, all else was brown, dead. Much of the thick, leathery skin along the trunk had come loose and crumpled in a heap at the massive foot. Senor Seguro had lost his pants. Only his ribs, thumb-thick vertical timbers, held him up. Elf owls nested in his chest. The old professor often talked to Senor Seguro, and to us. He was not certified to teach in Arizona, but that didn't stop him. Every Saturday morning, his house became a school. 4th graders, 12th graders, all were welcome. No tests, no grades, no attendance record, just the best school most of us had ever gone to. He covered everything from toothpaste to tapeworms, and somehow made it all fit together. He called us the Loyal Order of the Stone Bone. He gave us homemade necklaces. The pendant was a small fossil bone strung on a rawhide. Years before, he had told us in his first class, "Call me Archie," and he never had to say it again. After dinner that day, Kevin and I walked over to Archie's. Though the official class convened on Saturday mornings, kids were welcome anytime. My school, he said, is everywhere and always in session. We found him, as usual, on the back porch, rocking and reading. The porch, bathed in red gold light of sunset, faced the Maricopas. Archie's white hair seemed to give off a light of its own. The moment he saw us, he put down his book. "Students, welcome!" "Archie," we said, then turned to greet the great cactus, as visitors were expected to. "Senor Seguro," we saluted. We sat on rockers. The porch was full of them. "So, men," he said, "business or pleasure?" "Bafflement," I said. "There's a new girl in school." He laughed. "Stargirl." Kevin's eyes popped open. "You know her?" "Know her," he said. He picked up his pipe and loaded it with cherry sweet tobacco. He always did this when settling in for a long lecture or conversation. "Good question." He lit his pipe. "Let's say she's been on the porch here quite a few times." White smoke puffed like Apache signals from the corner of his mouth. "I was wondering when you'd start asking questions," he chuckled to himself. "Bafflement. Good word. She is different, isn't she?" Kevin and I burst into laughter and nods. At that moment, I realized how much I had been craving Archie's confirmation. Kevin exclaimed, "Like another species?" Archie cocked his head as if he had just caught the sound of a rare bird. The pipe stem anchored a wry grin. A sweet scent filled the air about our rocking chairs. He stared at Kevin. "On the contrary, she is one of us, most decidedly. She is us more than we are us. She is, I think, who we really are, or were." Archie talked like that sometimes, in riddles. We didn't always know what he was saying, but our ears didn't much care. He wanted to hear more. As the sun dipped below the mountains, it fired a final dart at Archie's flashing eyebrows. "She's homeschooled, you know. Her mother brought her to me. I guess she wanted a break from playing teacher. 1 day a week. 4, 5, yes, 5 years ago now. Kevin pointed. You created her! Archie smiled, puffed. No, that was long before me. Some people are saying she's some kind of alien sent here from Alpha Centauri or something, said Kevin. He chuckled, but not too convincingly. He half believed it. Archie's pipe had gone up. He relit it. She's anything but. She's an Earthling if ever there was one. So it's not just an act, said Kevin. An act? No. If anyone is acting, it's us. She's as real as... He looked around. He picked up a tiny, wedge-like skull of Barney, a 60-million-year-old Paleocene rodent, and held it up. As real as Barney. I felt a little jolt of pride at having realized this conclusion myself. But the name, said Kevin, leaning forward. Is it real? The name? Archie shrugged. Every name is real. That's the nature of names. When she first showed up, she called herself Pocket Mouse. Then Mud Pie. Then, what was it? Hully Gully, I believe. Now, Stargirl. The word came out whispery. My throat was dry. Archie looked at me. Whatever strikes her fancy. Maybe that's how names ought to be, huh? Why be stuck with just one your whole life? What about her parents? Said Kevin. What about them? What do they think? Archie shrugged. I guess they agree. What do they do? Kevin said. Breathe, eat, clip their toenails? Kevin laughed. You know what I mean. Where do they work? Mrs. Carraway, until a few months ago, was Stargirl's teacher. I understand she also makes costumes for movies. Kevin poked me. Those crazy clothes. Her father, Charles, works. He smiled at us. Where else? Mycotronics, we said in a chorus. I said it with wonder, for I had imagined something more exotic. Kevin said, So where is she from? A natural question in a city as young as Micah. Nearly everyone had been born somewhere else. Archie's eyebrows went up. Good question. He took a long pull on his pipe. Some would say Minnesota, but in her case... He let out the smoke, his face disappearing in a gray cloud. A sweet haze veiled the sunset, cherries roasting in the Maricopas. He whispered, Rara Avis. Archie, said Kevin, you're not making a lot of sense. Archie laughed. Do I ever? Kevin jumped up. I want to put her on hot seat. Dorco Borlaug here doesn't want to. Archie studied me through the smoke. I thought I saw approval, but when he spoke, he merely said, Work it out, men. We talked until dark. We said adios to Senor Seguro. On our way out, Archie said, more to me than to Kevin, I thought, You'll know her more by your questions than by her answers. Keep looking at her long enough. One day you might see someone you know.